I just got to say this. I don't want to say this to whoever is, maybe listening and maybe the religious community, even the Christian community that you're around. Everything is evaluated in terms of how many are coming. Everything's evaluated in how much money is given. Success or failure is determined by whether or not we're doing more numerically this year than we did last year. I just want to say this. Jesus is the one who builds the true church. Personalities and social formulas can build crowds. A crowd is not the church. Otherwise, if this crowd was such a big deal to Jesus, he wouldn't have slipped away without anybody knowing he was there except the one man whom he touched. Jesus doesn't need crowds. He does what he does, whether it's in the company of 5,000, 50,000, or 5 little junior boys, or 5 preschool kids, or just one somebody who's been flat on his back for 38 years. But there's bondage in this thing of we're supposed to build the church, we're supposed to build the church, we're supposed to build the church. Find that in the New Testament. Find a listing of numbers anywhere in Paul's writings. Where he's writing there, find one time where he lists how many were at Ephesus, how many were at Corinth. You say, well, if you don't focus on numbers, you won't get numbers. Give me a break. Whose church is it anyway? Who's building the church anyway? And if he's just fine with pouring your life into 15 people or 5 people or 5,000 or 50,000, and that's what he's got on his agenda, then hallelujah. But if I'm coming up with some man-made, flesh-driven, selfish kind of incentive that I've got to do this in order for me to feel better about things, we need to be at that church because that's where it seems like everybody's going. But he says, I'll build my church. I'll build my church. And what he says is John 15, sometimes the church has to be pruned in order for it to bear more fruit. To assume that everywhere all the time God's expecting massive crowds to be filling everything. You just go back to the life of Jesus. And that's one of them is that, everybody's left. You people go, you 10, you 12, going to. Because his word was clear, his word was strong, and it separated some things. The Lord can do what he chooses to do with whoever he chooses to do. And in this case, it was one man in a crowd of sick people, poor people, broken people. He did what he did in the life of that man, and then he snuck out. Jesus snuck out. We got to factor that into our outlook on things as it relates to capitalism in the American church. And that's really all that it is in many cases.